We left off right fortuitously, right before the trial. Right as the trial was starting, weren't we? Trial Part 1, Old Bailey. The Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Yes, very good. It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated little literary debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11. Ah, my tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he? Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't keel over immediately after taking it. Victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. Thanks, Gregson. I mean, you got a point, but yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward. Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless. Presumably, though, he drank it too, right? Teacups have been examined for traces of the poison, haven't they? Why didn't I think of that? Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to. Why? Did I hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect's substance? How could you overlook something so important? Is that the first thing you should have done? My learned Nipponese friend is falsely incensed. I missed your aggressive lean forward. The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea. Not that it was overlooked. Unable? Why? That's simple enough. There was none left. Not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed. With current scientific techniques, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstances. Camera pan to the right to see Holmes hanging off of a pillar upside down. Current techniques, you say? We only need a drop, but that one drop does have to exist, funnily enough. A lack of examination notwithstanding. It appears nothing other than that tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question. I see. Thank you. The matter is clear. Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend. What? You can see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accused's guilt. Your client's fate is all but sealed. Where am I? In mere moments from now, you will lose and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity. He's right. I can feel all 6 of the jurors looking daggers at me. Smack! I can't let them beat me down. I won't. I can't disappoint the little Cosmo-sama on my shoulder. Gods for the defense, proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Let's do this. The catastrophic night.
Hold it!
Were you and your neighbor good friends then? Ah, no! We weren't friends. Not at all. Not at all. Never. Ever. You're not helping yourself here. Simple no would have sufficed. Simple no would have been more helpful. He still... Of course he would push his armband up in the alternate costume. Then, why did you decide to pay him a visit? Mr. Shakespeare fancies himself as having great literary knowledge. As a fellow scholar of English literature, we find much to talk about together. Come now. No Nipponese could understand the finer points of English literature. Shut up! On the night in question, that was the topic of conversation as well, I presume. You can say what you will about the finer points of his actions, but that's just flat out racist. The day of my last trial, when I was acquitted, I just arrived back at my lodgings. When I ran into Mr. Shamsby outside of the street, that was at around 6 o'clock. We exchanged 1 or 2 pleasantries, but it soon turned into a heated discussion. He was on his way out at the time, though. So I promised to visit his room that evening at 9 to continue our debate. But did I have ill intentions? No, not one, not two, not any. Not at all. Never, ever. This is me, this is my never ever pose. A simple no would have sufficed, I feel. Then tell the court what did happen when he visited his victim's room.
Hold it!
Literary debate about Shakespeare's works, I think you said, didn't you? Shakespeare? Ah, a very worthy topic of conversation, I must say. Oh, yes, my lord. Romeo and Juliet. Who was stronger? It's profoundly pleasurable parley. Shakespeare power scaling, go. Romeo and Juliet. Who was stronger? I know I'm gonna regret asking this, but how did the debate go? Well, we both agreed that we would reach a conclusion more quickly with a reenactment. So we battled it out in a Greco-Roman style, naturally. What? What? Mr. Shakespeare had all sorts of costumes in his room for just such a contest. So when you say a reenactment, you mean you were actually in costume? He is Romeo, I is Juliet. After a vigorous, wild tussle, I, as Juliet, came out on top. A victory I'll cherish forever. Wow, jobbed out Romeo, goddamn. I dare not imagine the terrible scene of carnage. The fact remains that it was you who paired the tea and took it to the victim, correct? I boiled the water in my room and made a pot to shake with me. I heard that he was too poor to have tea himself, you see. It's true, there was no sign of any tea leaves in this man's room. I wanted to do something nice, be friendly, and look where it got me. So why is everybody looking at me with such suspicion? My tea was harmless, of course it was. And do you have any basis for that statement, witness? And that is true. See, we could make the argument that if he drank tea with the victim too, but then he also told us that he had his, phantom smothering incidents too, which could, Zieks could easily argue was saying, like, that's him poisoning himself, like a goober. But yes, there was not a drop of tea left in the victim's room anywhere, was there? That's correct. Anyone would think the fellow had never had a pot of tea before. He must have licked it dry. Which is a pity, because one drop is all we would have needed to analyze it for poison. And you say that you returned home to your room at 11 o'clock, Mr. Natsume? Yes, definitely. By heaven and earth, I swear it. The landlord is able to verify that, as it happens. He confirmed that the defendant went back to his room at 11 that night. And how's the landlord able to attest to this? He, said it was the lamps, I believe. The lamps, Inspector? When tenants return to their rooms and start using gas, the lamps in other parts of the house flicker. Yes, Mr. Garridem seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his tenants. There's only one key to Mr. Shakespeare's room, I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself, from inside his room. The victim has confirmed that to be the case, yes. So I'm right, my tea was harmless, completely harmless. You take poison, you die. Everyone knows that. It's not that simple, I'm afraid. What do you mean? There are different types of poisons, not your only experience. No, you weren't there for that first case. You were there for the second case, which hasn't happened yet.
Hold it!
How long does it take for symptoms to appear then? According to the court, speaking at the hour, about 30 minutes after the poison's consumed. And the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation. There's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms. Seems to be a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure. Oh dear. Death by poisoning again. It's always so awful. 30 minutes is a long time. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left. You can't deny that. It further degrades Soseki-san's alibi. Soseki-san's alibi? I had the medical report for the doctor to examine the victim here, my lord. It spells it out, really. The accused is the only person who could have done it. Very well, the court will add this report to the court record as evidence. Ah, evidence. Oh, yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms. Great. Check this puppy out. Sham Spear, 31. Cause a coma. Small quantity of strychnine. Toxic effects present 30 minutes after ingestion. Mixed with the tea the victim was drinking. No sample could be obtained for testing. No container for the poison was found at the scene. This must be the cup that Mr. Shamspeare was drinking from then. Stained on the inside. Tea does that, I'm afraid. Even green tea. Oh, really? I never noticed before. You never noticed? Well, I never leave it in the cup long enough to leave a mark. I like to go up and down. Drink tea while it's hot. That's the Japanese way, isn't it? Oh dear. So many people seem to have the wrong idea about our culture. And most of them are Japanese. Yeah. Have a little rotate. 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 What on earth is this? Whoever opened this envelope didn't bother with a letter opener or scissors, did they? Yes, whoever opened it was clearly someone with an unrefined temperament. And judging from the angle of the rip here, the person in question must have been right-handed. Mr. Zato! I think perhaps someone's been reading too much of the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. You never read too much of it, Mr. Naruhodo. Rotate.
Hold it!
The argument still stands, you say? That's what Mr. Natsume had been saying. Isn't it? A pair of them drank tea together that night, so if there was poison in it, the victim would have been able to lock the door after the accused left later on. Exactly! Ah, me and my tea are innocent. Sweet and innocent, I tell you. I'm afraid, sir, that doesn't follow. You see, strychnine is a slow-acting poison. In other words, it takes time for symptoms to appear. So you could have left the room up to 30 minutes after the victim drank the tea. As long as you did that, Mr. Shamspeare could have locked the door after you'd gone. What? But no! You drank the tea straight away. Battle over whether Romeo or Juliet was stronger. That came after the tea. Do you have any evidence to support that statement? In my great homeland, the Empire of Japan, we have a saying, drink tea while it's hot. Drink tea while it's hot. Yeah. Sure, a proverb will satisfy the prosecution. Afraid there's no conclusive proof to support the defendant's assertion. On the contrary, there are sufficient grounds to infer his guilt in this matter. No! That's the extent of their testimony, is it? If I could voice a personal opinion, Mr. Naruhodo? Of course, go ahead. Mr. Natsume is arguing for his innocence so adamantly and so persistently. And Inspector Gregson just brushes what he says aside. It's really quite infuriating. I agree. So we need to find an inconsistency in what the inspector is saying, I think. I'm afraid so. As things stand, the jurors are sure to find Mr. Natsume guilty. As I see it, what we need to focus on is the poison in the tea. Listen carefully to this testimony again. Yes, The poison. The poison in the tea. The tea's poison. 9 o'clock that evening. At around 11. Medical report says 1:30, eh?
Objection!
Mr. Natsume, you say it was 11 p.m. when you left to return to your room, correct? Yes. Inspector Gregson, do you rely on the information in the medical report unconditionally? Of course we can. There's no problem with that report, Sunshine. Actually, I think there's a very big problem. Because there's a chronological inconsistency between it and the defendant's testimony. Yeah. A what now? What are you on about? According to this report, the victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning. And yet, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, left the victim's room at 11. Ah! Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. Ah! In other words, if there was poison in the tea that Mr. Natsume brought home to the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it 2.5 full hours after the defendant left? Ah! Double pose! Gregson finds another long-lost brother. The defense's argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Van Zieks? Uh-oh. Chalice time. Half chalice. Give it a swish. What's the aroma today? Pray forgive the discourtesy if my mind has wandered. I was considering what cuisine would best complement the contents of my hallowed chalice this luncheon. How could it have happened, you ask? Smash! I do hate to shatter illusions, but my Nipponese friend appears to be chasing a phantom idea. A phantom? It's hard to imagine the victim drank his tea after the accused had left. For example, at the time stated in the medical report. Yes, at around 1:30.
Objection!
Mr. Natsume brought the tea with him to drink together with his neighbor. In Japan, there's a well-known saying, drink tea while it's hot.
Objection!
Oh, that's an angrier objection than I remember. And in my country, there's an even more apt saying. There is nothing more refreshing than cold tea. The point is, there was such a long gap. Maybe other ways to explain how the victim could be poisoned. Other possibilities. What sort of possibilities, counsel? I don't know yet. I'll get back to you on that. Well, for example, the man could have had another visitor. Another visitor? That's actually a good answer. It's a very bold assertion, my learned friend. From someone who has nothing to substantiate it. Or the victim could have taken the poison of his own volition. Could have eaten soup. You suggest this may have been a suicide, counsel?
Objection!
Mr. Shamspeare has categorically denied suicide. The idea can and must be discounted.
Objection!
Smack. But he could be lying. Uh-oh. He's angry. Something wrong, Lord Van Zieks? I was listening to the sound of the carriage pulling up outside the courtroom. Pray, forgive the discourtesy. Carriage? What carriage? Would seem the key player in this case has just arrived. Uh-oh. Out! Out! Brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. Oh no. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. Oh no. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Who, sir, are you? William Shakespeare, my lord. Alas, 'twas I. Undone by these bitter events, I am the victim. What? What's he doing here? The prosecution seeks to call this gentleman to the stand. With his testimony, my learned friend's futile resistance will be utterly crushed. You're calling him as a witness? Very well, counsel. I grant your request with interest. I'm curious to discover what the court shall hear from the victim himself. Happy am I, Shakespeare, to regale thee with my tale of woe, my lord. But I still have my own tale to tell. My own tale of worse woe. I can regale the court with a tale of my perfect innocence in perfect English. That'll do, Mr. Natsume. The court now here for the victim. Oh boy. Alright, so that's Mr. Shakespeare. But who's that other man beside him? Yes, I feel sure we've caught a glimpse of that man before. State your names and occupations for the court, please, witnesses. A writer of words so sweet they do scent the breeze. Inventor of ideas so profound they comprise the unrivaled poet and the unmatched scribe, William Shakespeare. With the great bard be recalled to life anew. Lo, what a magnificent man. Good fellows, I am he who ponders such a miracle, William Shakespeare. Oh, name's Meterman. A drawn B. Meterman. I work for the Altamont Gas Company, East End branch office. Ah, I remember now. It was yesterday on Briar Road. Oh, yes. She's right, it's him. What a chin. Oh, what's this? Curious choice. What's that man doing over there? Looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Excuse me. Could we have a word? Ah! Ah! Distant ancestor of Inspector Cabanella. Yes, we spotted him outside Mr. Garadeb's house last morning. He's a gas company employee? What does he have to do with this case? So, Mr. William Shakespeare, you were the victim in this miserable affair, correct? Oh heaven, oh hell, do you command me to remember that sweet poison that didst cross me and cross mine innocent lips? I subpoenaed him for the trial, with his doctor's permission, naturally. Hearing the testimony of the aggrieved will remove any room for doubt from the jurors' minds, I'm sure. Behold, you have only to rearrange the letters of my name to see that me's a seraph, an angel indeed. Thus be I noble of mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart, as all heavenly angels be. Because there isn't a less contrived meaning in your name. No, not at all. The jurors seem to be very moved by this man, I'm afraid. I'm quite charmed. You're actually taking this seraph anagram idea seriously? What? I can't hear you, Sonny. Thank you, witnesses, for your illuminating introductions. But, my lord, what's the man next to Mr. Shakespeare doing here? The gasman, I mean. What? Me? Well, now. Allow me to enlighten my learned friend. You recall, I presume, your earlier impertinence, when you suggested that the victim had another visitor to his room on the night in question, and moreover that the victim is a compulsive liar. What? No, I didn't quite say that. This young chin-stroker here is here to controvert your wild claims, conclusively. It is not so, Mr. Meterman. Hang on, no. I hereby call for your formal testimonies. You will tell the court as lucidly as possible what happened on the night in question. One may smile and be a villain. Yes, it doth pain me, but let the truth be spoken, the truth of that wintry night of my discontent. Okay, this is going to be unique. The wintry night of my discontent, okay. The snow lay about. My neighbor did cometh in the evening, bearing a gift of tea. Not marry, but what his drink. When he left, I did fall prostrate on my table. 'Twas the tea alone did pass my lips in that late hour, not else. I was outside this bloke's window in the freezing cold all night, keeping an eye on his room. No one else visited his room but that short little bound-backed eastern room. Wow, that's awful. Wait, what'd you say? You were keeping an eye on Mr. Shakespeare's room all night? That's right. Of course, the bloke's window's all but blocked off, isn't it? There's a little gap in the bricks where you can see into the room. So I spent the night trying to keep my teeth from chattering as I peeked in through that. The question is, sir, why? Well, now, that's because he's on my list. What a piece of work is a man. Wherefore wouldst thou not stare in wonderment? What are you talking about? This buzzing busybody hath not part in this play. I pray thee, pay him no heed. Make no more ado about his tedious words. What'd you say about me? He's a bee! Like that, calm yourself. This court is concerned with what happened the night in question. Nothing more. Indeed, that is so. And, as the testimony we have just heard clearly reveals, there was no one other than the accused present at the time which could have carried out this crime. Oh dear. Well, I believe this may be the final testimony of the trial. Now, counsel, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Under the gun quite early.
Hold it!
To be clear, by neighbor, you are referring to the defendant, Mr. Natsume. Oh, indeed, sir. Perchance thou wouldst that I call him the man from upstairs. Oh, hello. At what time did the mustached Nipponese visit you in your room? Our meeting was promised for the hour of 9, and lo did he come to tender a gift of fragrant tea. Details which are in accordance with the defendant's own testimony, yes. And we were broiled in such literary debate as history hath not seen before. By which I presume he means, the discussion about who was the stronger, Romeo or Juliet. I, Shakespeare, did play the part of young Romeo, whilst my neighbour did play the fair Juliet. Each of us dressed as would our characters be to bring weight upon our merry experiment. I dare not imagine the scene. Fair tea, thy name is woman. Canst thou imagine how dismayed I was? Yes, I had heard of the eastern art of jiu-jitsu, but... never did I dream that 'twould be a skill practiced by the comely maiden. Juliet beat Romeo up. This is not helping our case. I believe the court has heard enough about your earth-shattering literary debate. Perhaps you could reiterate your statement about the tea that the accused brought to your room. My liege, I am thy servant. Gladly I would do thy bidding. Okay, buddy.
Hold it!
Let me stop you there. Mr. Natsume left your room at 11 o'clock. It wasn't until after that, too, that the poison made you collapse. That was more than 3 hours of missing time. If the defendant had really put the poison into your tea, that 3-hour window of time is something you'd have to explain. Gladly. 'Tis an easy task. What? I did drink of the tea, not while my guest did tarry, but after he took leave of me. Faith, 'twas stone cold, but at 1 hour post midnight, verily, we were by lips parched.
Objection!
That doesn't sound normal. Nay, 'tis quite ordinary, sire. After all, thou wouldst recall our fiery debate. Amidst such argument, there'd be no time for fiery tea. Romeo and Juliet again, and who was stronger? Mr. Shakespeare, in summary, allow me to confirm. Did you not come here with the intention of naming your attacker? Of course, quite. My liege. 'Twas the stooped lover of words did attempt to shove me off this mortal coil. Ah, you all know what that means.
Hold it!
So, you didn't have any kind of evening meal? Dinner? Supper? Ah, a fire on luxury, a fire on gluttony. To eat thrice daily is but a waste of time. Sorry? I would that my belly were full. No more of that, no more often the sun doth rise. Well, most heroic eating habits, I'd say. Night and day do I fill my hours with learned study of the great bard and playwright. Hence it is that there doth not in my chamber be than the costumes of mine art. That would appear to be the case, as even a rodent was found starved to death in your room. Now I think about it, that's not just food that was conspicuously missing from the room, wasn't it? I don't recall seeing a single play or script anywhere. For I have devoured them all. You've eaten them? Desperation, every word be within my skull. Didst thou imagine otherwise? Right, that wasn't misleading at all. Now, could you turn around, do you think? Which brings us to the conclusion that the only way the poison could have passed the victim's lips is in the tea. Ah. You, I'm curious about. But the windows of that house have all been filled in. Historical artifact of the now defunct window tax. Yeah, you're right there. All bricked up horribly. But as it happened, there's a little part of the brickwork at the bottom corner that's been opened up. Just looking in through that gap. Yes, there were a few bricks loose, weren't there? For some strange reason, a couple of bars of soap lined up on the ledge outside as well. I don't like going around poking my chin at other people's business, especially on freezing cold nights. Them's my orders. That's what I'll keep doing. As long as there's breath in my body. He's totally meant to be a bee, isn't he? What's with all the theatricals today? Out of interest, Mr. Meaderman, about the... After the accused had left and returned to his own lodgings, did you see the victim leave the room at all? No, he never left. He was in the room the whole time, as far as I'm concerned. And we can therefore discount the possibility of suicide. How can you be sure of that? Police carried out a thorough investigation of the scene and found no receptacle for the poison. As we know, the victim didn't leave his room and hence didn't dispose of the poison's container himself. It's clear that this was no attempted suicide. Only the culprit could have removed the receptacle. Ah, yes. Lucidly explained, counsel. Thank you. Really was. You can't argue with that logic. Yeah. That tracks.
Hold it!
You see a short little round-backed Eastern fella? So you can't be sure it was the defendant, then.
Objection!
How many other short little round-backed Nipponese with a mustache do you think there are in London? Well, of course, it's only a narrow gap, and it was quite dark, so I didn't notice the mustache. He showed up around 9, I'm pretty sure myself. When the person you saw arrived, did he and Mr. Shakespeare drink tea together? Nah, sorry. Couldn't say. Why not? 'Cause couldn't see into the room all that well, could I? What I did see was the silhouette of that little round-backed fellow wearing a pretty dress. And a pair of them started showing some kind of wrestling match. I tell you, I don't know what to make of it. I suppose that was the Romeo and Juliet championship battle getting underway. Mr. Meterman, allow me to confirm one final time. Apart from the accused, can you state with certainty that no one else visited the victim on the night in question? No question. Yes, Banzana. Oh no. Verdict time. My lord! Goodness me. Yes, Mr. Foreman? I've kept my mouth shut in this up to now, but this has gone on long enough. Are you all with me? Yes. What? Are we to understand that you, ladies and gentlemen of the verdict, are in agreement with one another? That you've reached a unanimous decision? Too right we have. Are you all with me? Ah! Wait, no! The fence is in the middle of a cross-examination. To be honest, I was holding out a bit of hope for you, young man. Especially after you identified those few hours that followed the accused leaving the victim's room. Yes, the 3 missing hours, as you put it. But in the end, what difference do they make? None, as far as I can see. And since that's now apparent, there's really no reason to delay our decision any longer. Like I was saying before, if I don't take 5 bob home with me tonight, the missus will blow her top. What's that? Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said. Oh, poor fella. Very well, let the court be apprised of your decisions. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will state your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty!
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Kaboom. All of you. What a brief the jury is indeed unanimous. So, this time at least it seems justice will be done. Also the dead as well, as they say. This calls for a toast, I feel. To the guilty being punished. Ah! Mr. Naruhodo, remember that thing that we did literally yesterday? Yet, Mr. Naruhodo, please! The trial isn't over yet. Well, what do you mean, Miss Susato? We did this literally yesterday. What the information I found in this encyclopedia of British law I have? An obscure right that belongs to the defense of these situations. Remember? A summation examination. Yes, that's right. We don't have a jury in Japanese courts, of course. But here at a British court of law, if we can reverse the decisions of a majority of the jurors, we can force the trial to continue. Yeah, peel myself off. This trial can't end now. Whatever it takes, I just can't let that happen. The defense moves to invoke its right to a summation examination, my lord. Why am I not surprised at my learned Nipponese friend's inability to admit defeat? You choose to cling desperately to some archaic rule you barely comprehend instead of accepting the truth. Certainly no other defense counsel in recent times has exercised the right to a summation examination. Because they all know that once the jury's mind is set, it cannot be altered. My dude, we literally did this yesterday. And we altered them. Nevertheless, the right remains and must be upheld. The defense counsel's request is granted. This court will proceed with the summation examination as outlined in the Encyclopedia of British Law. Thank you, my lord. I know we're just introducing this. For a new game. Did literally just do this like yesterday. Believe me, my lord, we all know about this young man's tenacity. We're ready for it. Very well. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby call upon each of you. State the grounds upon which you find the defendant guilty of the crime for which he stands accused. All right. Victor may not be well off, but he's a noble man and straight up. There's no reason to doubt the man. Oh, interesting assertion. Well, I do declare the good gentleman has no reason to lie. In fact, I think he's rather splendid. Let's look at the accused by comparison. He's Japanese, stoops all the while, and has a mustache. Very fishy. Oh, without... I'm stabbing you. Mr. Blonde-haired Blue Eyes. What does that say about you? There's no evidence to suggest that the gangling actor is a fraudsman. For now, at least. Oh, I really don't care, like. I just need this draw to end quickly. 3 hours of missing time is nothing when you reach my age, you know. Nothing at all. I knew it. Every single one of them seems completely convinced. It would seem that all the jurors have come to the conclusion that Mr. Shamsphere is a fine, upstanding, and honest citizen. If you ask me, they've all been bewitched by his strange theatrical movements. And sadly, nothing Mr. Natsume has said appears to have registered at all. Well, here goes. Let's not forget. I've pleaded with the jury on Soseki-san's behalf before and it worked. So you never know. Before we begin, might be a day to remind you exactly how Summation Examination works, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh. Well, you're still very new to British law, after all. That's true, I suppose. Soseki-san's fate is entirely in my hands now, too. There's always a chance I might have forgotten some crucial detail. How does she leave Susato-san out? I wonder. Should I let her talk me through it again, or not bother? No need. Thank you for the kind offer, Miss Susato. I've been through plenty of these summation examinations already now. You've been through 2, canonically. But much more. In terms of the game progression, I think it's important that we don't delay the start any longer than necessary. Of course, I understand. And I'm quite sure you're right. If you're confused by anything at any point, you can turn to me for advice whenever you like. I'll be here for you. Thank you, Susato. Key to this is really listening carefully to each juror's statement. Finding 2 that are contradictory, and pitting the corresponding jurors against each other. Without further ado, please, counsel, proceed with the summation examination. Yes, my lord. I do like that pose.
Hold it!
Well, there are plenty of people in London who seem noble but poor. Couldn't some of them also be liars? I've no doubt about it. Like that shaky client of yours, for example. Absolutely not. Mr. Natsume is no liar. Look, the point is, the only thing that passed the victim's lips that night was the Japanese man's tea. And take the Gaspin's testimony into account as well, the truth couldn't be any clearer. Well, that's alarmingly logical. For this guy, yeah, but let me be frank here. I'm a gentleman with a gentleman's values. It turns out that the old Shakespearean chum is a rotten liar after all. I'd gladly change my decision about the defendant. I'm sure my fellow gentlemen on the jury would do the same. Isn't that right? Well, yes, perhaps, though I don't see it happening. Eh? What's that? Elderly gent at the end here, you know. You'll have to speak up. Look, I really don't care about all this nonsense. I just need this trial to be over. How many gentlemen do we actually have with the jury, then? Ironically, all the gentlemen are wishy-washy, but the juror 2 is more inclined to agree with juror 1 in that regard. All right, sir, I may hold you to that. Don't forget what you said. Oh, shit. Keep forgetting. So your statement's updated. We can pit this against a statement proving that the victim lied.
Hold it!
Are you saying you believe the man to be trustworthy because he's rather splendid? No, that's not what I said. Point is, the man is the victim here. What reason would he have to lie? And yes, he is rather splendid. So you say, yet again. Meanwhile, the man who stands accused behaves so suspiciously. It's exhausting to look at him. I'm afraid he's not splendid at all. This is not Waka Waka. Splendid logic there, madam. Thank you so much. Never mind, we're not getting anything out of her. Meanwhile, you here... No, not one of those things is a reason to find the man guilty. But he is fishy. There's no point dancing around the fact. He's Japanese, he has a mustache, and he stoops. You see, you arrive at that conclusion in just 3 steps. 3 steps, like a waltz, in fact. Like one giant leap off a cliff that... I don't like you. You know, the more I think about it, the more this trial seems like a dance. You seem to be several steps ahead of yourself, though, and you're on the wrong foot. No, there's nothing but circumstantial evidence here. There's no actual proof of the defendant's guilt. The victim's version of events is backed up by what the big-chinned man says next to him. Isn't it? 1, he saw the Japanese man there. 2, he saw no one else. And 3, he saw the Japanese man there. Oh, that's another 3 steps. Oh, this really does seem more and more like a waltz, doesn't it? Right, and the prosecution will waltz its way to victory if I let you speak much more. There's no evidence to suggest the gangling actor is a fraudsman. For now, at least. Oops, no. Back.
Hold it!
A fraudsman? What do you mean by that, madam? It really is the most tiresome problem for the company. Most irritating. You can be absolutely certain that a customer is stealing from us, but without hard evidence. You can't even threaten to take action for fear of being sued. I'm sorry, you've lost me a little bit there. Who are you? I'm the wife of Augustus Altamont, owner of the Altamont Gas Company. Good gracious, Altamont Gas, you say? Oh great, you're the boss of... Ah. Yes, the future of energy in the company and around the globe. But proper handling is essential. As I'm sure our employee with the East End branch office would be the first to agree. Absolutely, Lady Quinby. Gotta be used properly. Altamont Gas is the best in the world, of course. Ah, I think we may have solved the mystery of the bow from earlier, Mr. Naruhodo. Right. He bowed in deference to his employer's wife, didn't he? So, would I be right in assuming that the reason Mr. Biederman was watching what Mr. Shamsbury was up to in his room? I'm afraid that there's no end to the length the population of the East End will go in order to steal our gas. So I really have no choice when the company identifies somebody as a possible fraudsman, but to dispatch a worker to watch the suspect day and night. We're very thorough in our investigations. So you mean, Mr. Shamsbury's... I wouldn't come out and say it in public. Oh, but you can finish that sentence with a grubby little gas thief. You have noticed the public gallery in here, have you? The eye of man hath not heard, the ear of man hath not seen. But, faith, wouldst thou wound me with thy words, were I to let them penetrate my skin? Let's say I've seen not insults, only choirs of angels in song. We may not have evidence yet, but my workers won't stop buzzing around you until they find it. Yeah, they are based on bees. When they do, you find yourself blasted back to your angelic heights in an Altamont gas explosion. So Mr. Shamsbury has been stealing gas. I wonder, juror number 4, if you wouldn't mind adding that information to your statement. My pleasure. Was the bit about ripping that thief apart you enjoyed? A little before the part about the abject balance, if it's not too much trouble. Yes, of course. This could be it. This could shift the balance.
Hold it!
We'll press these last two first. Keep talking about needing to take home some money. What's that all about, sir? Finish last. That's what it's about. What's that? Talking about the derby at Hyde Park, aren't I? It was the Queen's Cup last week, wasn't it? Derby? It was a dead cert, that's the thing. I couldn't lose. So I took my wife's secret savings, like, but then I hope this old man went into the unthinkable. Ugh, that stupid finished last. Oh, dear. I think it's clear what happened, isn't it? This is the day the missus used their savings for a trip down to the pub. So come on, at the business line now. Just give it up. And no, that's not going to happen.
Hold it!
What do you really mean by that, sir? Well, I'm not one to boast, but I get up at 5 every morning. I do. At 5? You're a really early riser then, aren't you? What's that now? I said, you're a really early riser. Oh, well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I like to while away the hours of the evening reading books as well. But by about 2 in the morning, I'm usually too tired to go on. He sleeps at 2 in the morning and gets up at 5? Oh my, that means he only has 3 hours of sleep each night. What's that, dear? Only 3 hours of sleep each night! That's right, you see, 3 hours of missing time. Like I said, it's not much, is it? This really isn't helping. That poor man. The key to summation examinations is identifying contradictions between juror statements, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, and once I've found 2 jurors whose statements can't coexist, I need to pit those jurors against each other. Hopefully when they see what they're saying doesn't make sense, they'll change their leaning. Yes, if you're able to change the minds of the majority of the jurors, the trial will continue. Conversely, if you're unable to do that, the judge will declare the trial over and move to adjudication. Can't let that happen. Somehow or other, I must turn this trial round.
Objection!
These 2 statements clearly contradict each other. Good gracious, to whose statements do you refer, counsel? Juror number 1. Yeah? What are you yelling about, lad? I presume you've heard juror number 4's statement. Made by the wife of the owner of Altamont Gas. Well, yes. Victim, who you claim to be a noble, straight-up man. In fact, turns out to be a common thief. No, the good lady says. But there's no evidence, is there? You and I both heard them say as much. It's true, we don't have evidence as such, just yet. But the claims aren't baseless, you know. What? You heard me. Seeing as his operation has already been compromised, I would suggest that the court hears testimony from our East End branch office employee over there. Now do whatever you say, my lady. Gasman's honor. She's the queen bee, and he's a... Juror number 1, you say you're a man of your word. If I could show that Mr. Shamsi was a liar, you assured me that you would reconsider your decision about the defendant's guilt. Now, if he was a smart man and also a troll, he would say, I reconsidered it, and I'm sticking with guilty. Yes, I did say that. As a man of honor, I'll hold to it. As I'm sure the other gentlemen of the jury will. Me? Oh, well, yes, I didn't agree to this. Now that we found out the man's a liar, perhaps we ought to consider the matter further. Well, if I'm perfectly honest, I haven't heard half of what you've all been saying. If this means you'll recap a few points, that would suit me for the down to the ground. Oh, you poor man. No, no, I'm not in any problems. I want this trial over and done with. In that case, I shall change my leaning. Smart, because you're the one who brought this up. So, Mr. William Shakespeare, if that is your real name... Finally someone says it. We, the jury, demand to know exactly what kind of a man you really are. That was a remarkably easy reversal. That's 4 jurors. 4 for not guilty. That was a remarkably easy turnaround. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo. Victory! Even he's in awe at how easy that was. Order! Order! Well, this is quite extraordinary, I must say. Result of the defense's summation examination, the jury's leading has changed. Now only 2 jurors say guilty, while 4 say not guilty. I therefore declare this court to be in a state of disaccord. Order the trial to continue. Oh, you have spoiled the bouquet, Mr. Shakespeare. Oh. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury now find they are unable to trust you, the victim. Oh. Much you gods would give us, some faults to make us men. So God mend me, and I do swear. This gasman speaketh that which concerns him the most. Naught but gas, naught but thin air. Why, it burneth bright a whole while, but hath no substance, and it doth reek foul. Oi! What'd you say? Do I take it, Mr. Shakespeare, that you deny the allegations of gas thievery? Most heartily, my lord. Hast thou forgot? I am as a seraph, an angel. Noble of mind, sweet of nature, and very honest of heart. Ah, you flowery-mouthed, pompous beanpole. It shows I haven't got the evidence yet. Mr. Shakespeare, if, in fact, you are not noble of mind, sweet of nature, or honest of heart, if you are a liar, then your testimony should have no sway in this courtroom. It's my considered opinion that at the present time no other possible culprit of this crime has been identified. All testimony heard by the court thus far heavily implicates the defendant. In short, it would not be unreasonable at this stage for me to rule on the case. Oh no. However, in light of the fact that the jury has expressed concern about the fidelity of this witness, I believe it would be inappropriate for this court not to pursue the point further.
Objection!
I assure you, my lord, that would be a waste of the court's time. The gas and this case are unrelated. Juror number 4. Yes? Did you say before that although you had no hard evidence to prove this man has been stealing gas, you have strong grounds for suspecting him? That's right, we do. Don't we? Worker? Absolutely, Lady Quinby. Gasman's order. Very well then. We will hear your testimony now. You will tell the court precisely why you believe the victim, Mr. William Shakespeare, has been stealing gas. Yes, my lord. Be my pleasure. Of the Altamont gas name, I will, if I may, my lord. Go ahead, madam. Miss Worker's testimony may have a significant bearing on the good name of my husband's company. Therefore, I should like to take the stand alongside him in a supervisory role, if you wouldn't mind. Woohoo! Oh, yeah! Sweet as honey. Yeah. Very well. As an exception, I shall honor your request. Thank you, my lord. You wait till the boss gives you an earful. Oh, it's gonna sting, you mark my words. I did not expect this personality from him. So, you will both testify before the court. Subject to the illegal consumption of the Altamont Gas Company's fuel. Yes. Is that clear, my good man? Clear as Altamont gas, my lady. Which is the clearest in the world. Do you think the gas has gone to his head, Mrs. Otto? I think the man is just a very dedicated employee, Mr. Naruhodo. Intriguing. Quite intriguing. A drone be... Oh my god, that's the pun, isn't it? A drone be... A drone be meter man. Oh my god. I'm gonna die. Oh, he's a drone bee. Queen bee. Queen bee. Altamont. That's just a British name, or... Yeah, not much to really talk about there. Altamont means high mound. So, might be a thing. Don't know, but... A drone bee. God.